So my name is Aiden. I'm a junior mechanical engineering major at Howard University. I just finished my study abroad from the United Arab Emirates from American University of Sharjah, and I'm here in this video to talk about, give you some insight onto what my experience was like there and give you guys some advice. So I decided to study at the American University of Sharjah in the Emirates because I'm very passionate about studying Arabic, and Arabic is also my minor, and I thought it would be a great way to practice Arabic with locals and to be able to interact with them and people from different parts of the Middle East. Mainly my intention was to improve fluency in Arabic and to improve my vocabulary in Arabic, and I also want to experience the different traditions and try some different types of foods and cuisines, and also want to get a chance, to also travel to a nearby neighboring Arab country and be able to also visit all the Emirates down there. I was able to only visit 6 out of the 7. I had a really great time there. First, I want to talk about my first week coming here. Sadly, I think I missed the first day of orientation because I misread on one of the emails of what day to land. Apparently the residential hall told me something else, like come this day, but then the exchange office actually specifically mentioned in emails, oh, come by this day. And so I didn't read the email carefully. I guess what was life actually like? I would say for more towards the academic side, I'd say the homework load was pretty much fine, and classes were only 4 days a week, so it was only Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday were the weekends, and so 3-day weekends were nice. But I would say I think the tests were a lot harder, and there's more frequent assessments. For in this case, there's more quizzes. I would say on average, I usually had around 2 to 3 quizzes a week, and also on top of that, there were exams in that week also. It was quite busy, and I would say top of that it was a hectic, a bit overwhelming, and I would say I just find the tests to be difficult. I would say my end. I want to talk about this kind of academic culture here. I do believe that this school is a bit more academically challenging versus Howard, I think. My opinion. I do think it's a lot harder. I think the reason why is I think I would notice that some classes have a lot of engineering courses have a lot of recitation. Like my fluid mechanics class, recitation, a class I used to be in but I dropped. Probably statistics, they had a recitation class. And I think there can be the case where sometimes I feel like some courses abroad could actually be harder than the course at your home university. So that's why I think that's something you want to try to avoid. And I probably shouldn't have initially signed up for 16 credit hours, probably, especially with all the quizzes I've had. Like usually every week, a minimum, I kind of always had like 2 to 3 quizzes per week. Usually 2 quizzes a week, sometimes it'd be 3. And also make sure to check the prerequisites for courses. Even though sometimes you might not always be able to have access to the syllabus for a reason. So one class for sure I feel like I struggled the most in was engineering measurements. My home university is called instrumentation experimentation. Make sure to double check on the prerequisites, whether you have those prerequisites, because I think with that specific course I had to play a lot of catch up. So even though a course can have a similar course description and the topics might be the same, sometimes it doesn't always necessarily mean it's going to be the same content. Because I do feel like that course went a lot more in depth versus the course that, and also was a lot harder and a lot more demanding. And honestly, I think now looking back on it, I would much rather just take that lecture in that lab at my home university versus taking it here. And so I think that's something to always be just look out for. I was able to speak to people who did do, but I realized they were TV film major and one was a political science major, and they said it was pretty easy. But as an engineering major here, I feel like it was very, very challenging here. So make sure to talk to someone who's the same major as you, because every major can have a different experience. I feel like here, 2 of the hardest majors here is architecture and engineering. They seem to be the most demanding and more rigorous and more challenging majors here. Here they have makeup days on Sundays sometimes because of the break in order to catch up on the curriculum and being on time teaching certain topics. And I had to have only 2 makeup days. Unfortunately, for one lab, I had to do a makeup day on a Sunday. I had to then do for fluid mechanics on a Sunday one time. So makeup days are not the greatest. It depends on the teacher, if they're lenient or not, if they want to do it or not. It really depends. Also, the lab I took was too much work. I had a quiz every week. And also, for that course, the problem is I didn't receive the syllabus for that course not until after the ad drop period. So the first week of school, they didn't have lab. That's usually what they do. They cancel lab the first week of school. I didn't receive the syllabus for that lab until the following week, till the second week of classes, and then I then saw, he didn't announce in the class, quiz every week. And I was like, oh, snap. So I'm gonna have 4 quizzes next week. 1 from this class and 3 from my other classes. And so I was kind of like, this past the add drop period, so I'm gonna have to withdraw from my class. So that's what happened to me. And so, so make sure you receive the syllabus for the courses before the add drop period, especially for the labs. If you decide to take a lab, And so that's my advice. What I would have done differently, I should have probably emailed the lab instructor asking, because it wasn't available on the module, on the class that week. He didn't upload it until the second week. I should have emailed the lab instructor asking, can you email me the syllabus so I can know, can you email me the syllabus, before the add drop period at least? And I think that's what I would have done. If you're definitely on scholarship, make sure don't take so many classes. Take 12 credit hours or 15 credit hours. I think that's fine. Honestly, take 12 credit hours here. So technically, a recap on all this, I would say, is that take it easy on yourself. The less classes you take, the better. Take a few electives. Take a few major courses. Don't only take major courses. That's what I did. I only took major courses. I didn't take any electives. So take a mixture of major courses. Take an elective. And also if you're in a situation where you've already finished all your credits and stuff, you want to take an easy elective. There's no reason having to take a hard elective or anything. Just take an easy elective. And if I would have done it differently, I would have just taken 3 major classes and 1 elective. Even though that class wouldn't have been accredited towards my minor, since I've already taken that class in my home university, I would much rather take that easy elective and get a better GPA. So the first day of school for me started January 20th. That first week we had kind of an orientation week, and that's where we're going to all these events and stuff right there. I didn't put that on there, but okay. So orientation week usually the week before. I know Howard started a bit later. It started on they started a week earlier, I recall. They started on the 13th. Alright, and so this is kind of what my schedule was like. Alright, so initially I was taking 5 courses. 6 courses, I think. Okay, initially was to sign up for 16 credits, and then I dropped down to taking 13 credits, and then eventually dropped 1 class and took 12 credits. So this is kind of the schedules I had. I took material science, engineering measurements, and mechanical material, and I took fluid mechanics, and I took engineering measurements lab. And so so for me, Wednesdays were usually most busy for me. Back to back 8 to 10, and then had a little break to myself, and then mechanics materials, and right after that went straight to lab, and then kind of my day ended at 5 p.m. and every Thursday, it was kind of nice because I guess I had only 1 class that morning, but then they have this huge gap, and then you have recitations. A lot of classes have recitation, but that's mainly for engineering. I'm assuming probably for other programs outside of engineering probably don't have recitation. Okay, this is what kind of happened the first week. We didn't have the go for con trip. Oh, and also the add and drop deadline. So usually at Howard, also in most American schools, the add drop period is usually a week or 2, or at most 3 weeks. But here it's only 3 days. So you really only had Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and then add drop that day was 5 p.m. Well, actually, I just realized I should probably get rid of this, because I realized we never had a lab that day. That's right, because there weren't. I should delete this actually. Delete this event. Delete this event. This event. I just realized that because actually they don't have labs the first week, and I think most schools don't usually have labs the first week. The add drop period was only 3 days. I feel like I don't like that. In my opinion, it's just it's just so soon. It doesn't really give you acclimated to your classes and stuff. But then, and this kind of was the second week, and this is kind of what I did. And so my schedule was once the second week happens, you then really start to get the feel of what the pace is going to be like. So the homework they started assigned, and the quizzes and exams. And the next week, I can see it highlighted in red. I had 2 quizzes that week. Had a mechanics materials quiz, and then I have a mechanics quiz, and then I guess I have 2 homework assignments I do. The 4th week happens, then it starts getting busy. I have 3 quizzes that week, and then 3 quizzes in one day. That can happen. Sometimes we can have 2 quizzes one day, or it really depends upon like how your schedule is. So that's kind of what my schedule was like. I had 3 quizzes that day. That day I was so burnt out. And then next thing, this is when I had the makeup day. By the way, there's only 2 makeup days during the entire semester. I had a quiz on a Sunday. That was not super fun. And then I had that quiz that day, quiz the same day for my lab. Then the next day, then I had 2 quizzes. As you can kind of tell, there's usually on average for me usually around 2-3 quizzes. It really depends what's going on. Another day, and then I guess I had also a homework assignment due that day too. And okay, homework assignment, and I also had an exam on a Sunday. And I don't know, my teacher specifically for material science, he didn't schedule his exams. Actually, same for my material science, fluid mechanics. They never had their exams during class. They had them outside of class. He would always have them on the Tuesday, like later on the day. And then my material science professor, we even had them outside the class. It really depended upon how we decide to negotiate whatever time works for everyone. And then the next thing, so as you kind of see, that week I had that week I had 2 exams that day. There were 2 exams that week, 2 exams, and then 2 quizzes, and then 2 quizzes that week, and then also along with homework assignments, and then with other events going on, and then 3 quizzes that week, as you can see in red, 1, 2, 3, and then the week after that, then I had an exam that week, and I had a quiz. I had a quiz as soon as we got back. A quiz on Monday. The first day we got back is a quiz, and then as you can see, I had 2 quizzes that week, 1 exam, and then the week after, that was I did not like that week. I will say that for sure. I had a makeup lab that week, and then we also had a quiz for that lab. And then, I had 2 exams on Monday. On Wednesday, I then had engineering measurements exam. And then that same day, then I had a quiz for that lab. Literally, the same lab had like 2 quizzes. Actually insane. The same lab, bro. Like, has 2 quizzes that week on the previous lab we did. It's just like, it was too much, man. And then the following week had 2 quizzes. I do recall from other people, and these weren't from a friend of mine who was a business major, and he was from Boston. I remember once he told me he had 4 exams in 1 week, right after Eid break, and and then I remember one person, I think she's also a business major, I think, and she had 2 exams and 2 projects due that week, and exams, like, it gets very busy, very hectic, and so let's be prepared for that, because it does get very hectic, it does get very overwhelming, man. I remember, as you can see, the Google Calendar had 3 exams that 1 week, and then 2 exams in 1 week, 2 exams the following week. It really depends on your schedule. I say my recommendation when you're signing up for classes, try to see if you can set up your classes in a way where you can maybe where you only have classes on Mondays and Wednesdays, or you only have classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I think there are 2 students I knew. One actually was an engineering major. She was an electrical engineering major, and she only had classes on Mondays and Wednesdays. And so she had Tuesdays and Thursdays for herself. They're completely free. And I think I would have liked to have that schedule, but it really depends upon the availability of each class and the sections that are available. And also there's another student I knew. She only had classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And so try to see if you can do that maybe. I think I would have liked to have that schedule, but it does get very hectic and have 4 classes on Monday. But at least you have a free day to yourself. That was just my experience. I don't mean to show you this to like discourage you from going here. I really think that I would do this all over again, honestly. Even though how hectic things was and maybe how there's some stressful weeks, I would do it again. I would. And I don't mean to show you that to discourage you from coming. I want to show at least what my experience was like. And look, I think honestly, as long as you're not like an architecture or engineering major, it probably isn't gonna. You're probably gonna have it a lot easier, I'm assuming, because usually at that school, architecture and engineering are two of the hardest majors at that university. Honestly, what I recommend is like, just make sure, you know, you just distribute your time well, like which classes you want to focus on, and you just gotta have a good balance of stuff. And so, my advice to anyone who, obviously, of course, who wants to do well, I would say, make sure to make sure you have a good balance of your major courses. Just make sure you have a good balance between your major courses and then your electives. I think if you take 12 and 15 credits, it's like fine. There's no need in having to take like any more than that. Plus there's no point in having to like, you're taking 16 credits and like and you're just not gonna really enjoy yourself if you're like burdening yourself with that many credits and having to stress about that many courses. And so I think just of course make the time to study. That's the most important thing. But also make time to go about whenever you can explore different parts of whatever your study abroad country is. Make the time to just enjoy yourself, have a good time, just like embrace the culture. Go out, try to do as many excursions as you can. Look, overall, even though the academic was a lot more academically rigorous, but for me, I had the most fun out of all the semesters of college. Like, and I think that shaped my character a lot. I've learned a lot about myself and about people. Sharjah isn't really super walkable. The thing is, like, yes, it's very easy. Go to the taxi spot. You grab a taxi, pay 15 dirhams, which is like what, $5. Nearest co-op or like the nearest grocery store outside of campus. It's usually a 5 to 7 minute drive by taxi. Problem is, it's not so walkable. Like, I've done the walk. I've walked all the way from my dorm all the way to Karak Street to Wenhe, just a bunch of stores and a bunch of shops and stuff. That was a 48-minute walk, I think, and like, it's actually insane. Like, this is how the way that the campus is built. Like, so essentially, what this campus is like, there's two universities. There's American University Sharjah and there's University Sharjah. In order to get out of campus and to get to that direction, you have to get out of American University Sharjah, and you have to then also get out of University Sharjah. The most common port of transportation could be taxi and stuff. And speaking of transportation, I've personally only used the bus once, only to go to Oman once, but you can take a metro. The only thing is, like, the metro, there's only a metro in Dubai, and in order to get there, you have to take a taxi, there, which is, I think, 15-20 minutes. I believe there's also public transportation, but I've heard from the locals here, public transportation isn't the best, and I think you might as well just go by taxi. Look, everyone's going to be different depending upon their transcripts. Make sure you're in full understanding of, like, what the transcript situation is going to be like. Is the GPA going to transfer? Is the final letter grade going to transfer? Because I know with Howard it's different. They don't do A+ or C+. Howard just does either, regardless if you get a 91%, it's considered an A. Even if you get a 99%, it's considered an A. So even if it's A+, it's considered an A. If it's A-, it's considered an A. But with this school, they do have a A- and A+ system. So make sure you're understanding like how the grades are going to transfer over, because I know each country has different grading scales. I know it's very different in Europe and also different in Asia, and so yeah. So make sure you understand of like how the grades are going to transfer over, what's the transfer going to be like. The one thing I did like about this school was that there was like a Google Drive. It has like access, it's like of all previous courses at that school, and people upload previous homeworks and like previous syllabuses, and it's like really helpful in previous lecture notes. It's like super helpful for anyone who's taken a class, people who've taken it before. It has all the classes, like STEM age, everyone has access to it, that the Google Drive, and it's really super helpful. The housing was pretty good. I liked it, I would say, especially the free laundry, being able to always just wash the laundry and stuff. It was free laundry. I also had the computer center, and they're very useful. 24 access computer lab there, And I had a shared room. I like my roommate. It was really cool. And we had our own kitchen, had our own sink. Came with a 2-burner stove and a refrigerator, and then obviously bathroom we shared. And also the cleaners came in, once a week to clean the room. That was really nice. And I'll say also the gym was alright. I mean, it wasn't the best. I mean, the only thing I was working was like the treadmill and then the cycling machine. That was the only 2 things that really worked. The rest of the equipment was very outdated, didn't really work. Some of the equipment was functional, but the rest weren't really the best, and like hasn't been like in years, I would say. But I mean, the gym was perfectly fine, and the ping pong table, and there's a pool table, which was pretty cool. But honestly, I recommend to go to the gym that's in the gymnasium on campus, and that's the best gym to go to be honest. That's really good equipment there. I'd say the biggest thing was to adapt to the curfew. During the weekdays it was 5 a.m. to 12 a.m. on Monday through Thursday, and then during the weekends it was 5 a.m. to 1 a.m. During Ramadan, especially if you go during the spring semester, they do extend it by 1 hour so it's actually up until 2 a.m. during Ramadan, which was nice. And yeah, that was a big thing to adjust to because it's not common in the U.S. to have curfew, especially in the dorms. And speaking and continuing about the dorms, I think if ever in the case if you are late to curfew, there are times you might get a curfew violation. I'll admit I did have a curfew violation at one point, but you can ask your parents for permission to essentially send an email to the director of that head dorm or department, essentially of housing, and have your parents say, "Oh, I'm aware that my child is out," and I give them permission to be late, and so that honestly it's really fine. I'll say the culture shock for me was a big thing. Something they told us, not to wear shorts, wear it above the knees, and that was it. And also, I think, don't get me wrong, I've seen people wear it in public. I don't know if they didn't really enforce it that much. Whenever you're meeting someone, especially if they're like a Muslim woman, don't really extend your hand. I mean, that was something I had to like relearn. Just to, like if I meet, not to extend my hand, or if they don't, it's not anything to take personally or any offense. It's just that's the culture, and just respect, just genders. But obviously, so the same gender, it's fine to shake your hand with it. Obviously, I can shake hands with men. And I was also shocked, I think, by the level of hospitality, how kind and nice people are. People they take you out to places and sometimes to restaurants, and they pay for the bill even though I'm so insistent on trying to pay for it. They refuse, and I'm really shocked by the level of hospitality and how nice people are. One time I went to the vending machine and I had trouble paying with my card because I guess with some American bank maybe not accept the card, and someone offered to pay for a cappuccino for me. I was like very, very shocked by that. And there's a bunch of other things, and I'm shocked by the level of hospitality. My favorite part of the experience, I would say, there's so many things, but I would say like probably the excursions that the group. There's a lot of places they took us to. There's a trip to Abu Dhabi, also another trip to Dubai, and then also going to different parts of Sharjah, and but I think for me it was definitely traveling to Oman. I think that's that was such a fun weekend to do that, and I went with a couple of friends of mine from the exchange group. We decided to go there for one weekend and go on a boat excursion. It was really great. Going different places, it was really fun. Going out to souks and the malls and stuff and shopping was great. I'd say the challenges I faced, were probably, as I mentioned before, some of the academic culture. I think that was the biggest thing, adjusting that. I think my classes were a lot harder there than versus back home. I would say sometimes the credit card didn't work at certain places. Pay for something on noon and Talibot, it's essentially like the Uber Eats there, and some reason that didn't work, and paying for certain items on the card was kind of difficult. And also I'd say when I was logging back into some things, I was logging into my bank account, and I would send a verification code to my US phone number, but I didn't have access to it, obviously, since I was in abroad, and so that was a bit difficult. But obviously most people contact with each other through WhatsApp, and so I think it was alright to adjust to. You want to have a relaxing semester. I don't think you want to be so stressed out with courses and stuff, and so don't get me wrong, there's so stressful moments in there, but overall, like, I had a great experience, and I'll definitely do it again. I would say, I think meeting a lot of different people from different, different countries and stuff. For me, there's a lot of people from Canada, and a lot of people from different parts of the States. That was the most popular group of students, were people from Boston and different parts of the States, and one Australian, one Italian, and I think it's very interesting learning about, how their lives are, and what's life like there, and comparing it to our lives there. I'd say how I've changed. I would say I think it's allowed me to become more social, and I think it also gives the confidence to kind of go to explore a different place by myself, and not how to approach certain situations, good and bad, I would say, and be able to adapt to new environments and stuff, and how to be more spontaneous, and not to take life too seriously, and say try to go out as much as you can, explore the culture, but don't stress yourself out too much. Take it easy on yourself. Try to explore different parts of the country you can. Go on many excursions you can. Go out, have fun. Also try to document your experiences, with your camera, your phone, and yeah, it's basically just go out, explore as much as you can, be spontaneous, and yeah, just absorb much of the culture as you can, and just like have fun. I say the final thought: just immerse yourself into the culture as much as you can. Learn about all the different traditions and cultural customs, and try to be friends with as many locals as you can. Because you never know, that friendship can turn into a lifelong, friendship, and over time, you never know. If I had to give advice to myself, I'd say in the beginning, try to see if you can talk to someone who is of the same major, same major as you, and try to get their perspective of what it was like, being there, so you can get advice from them. Because I think if maybe I talked to someone who also was an engineering major, I kind of would get a better, idea and of like, what the academic rigor would be like, and what certain things they went through, and just so you just get better adjusted, and have the right schedule, so I can be successful in my classes. And yeah, so say reach out to someone who's in the same major. You can always ask the exchange office, and I think they'll be more than happy to help, to give you the contact of someone who was a previous exchange student, and you'll be very surprised at how helpful people are. Please feel free to contact me, or Mr. Rashid, if you have any questions about anything. More than happy to help anything. And I wish you guys the best of luck if your future study abroad semester. All right, bye guys.